How's it going, everybody? It's your boy Mike from Seattle, and today I'm going to make good on my little namesake here and talk about why it is still a terrible idea to invest in Seattle, especially when you have better options across the entire United States, counties and areas in the Midwest where you could get a significantly better return on your money. What we're going to do is take a look at an actual property that's listed on the MLS right now here in the Seattle area. It's an investment property. It's a duplex turnkey, ready to go on day one, ready to be rented property. And we're going to break down how these numbers make absolutely no sense at all from a cash-on-cash, yield-producing investing strategy, which is the strategy that I use and employ with my properties. Now, the only caveat here is, take out of the picture someone who's looking at house hacking. House hacking falls under its own set of rules. Check out some of my other videos for that if you want to. But from an investment standpoint, I'm going to prove to you why it makes no sense to invest here and why you should instead go somewhere else like the Midwest or a market that's better for you. Don't get caught up in the hype. Stay above the fray and look for stuff that makes sense, okay? Hopefully this video is beneficial. Lastly, I would love to hear from you in the comments if you do live in one of these ridiculously overpriced coastal cities like Seattle, San Francisco, New York, Boston, Chicago, which I know isn't a coastal city, but it's on Lake Michigan, I think? So one of the Great Lakes. If people in your market are buying these properties up, these overpriced markets, these inflated bubble-esque type markets, why are they buying? If you bought a property in one of these markets, why did you buy? Did you find it off market? Did you get a good deal on it? What is the strategy? What is your game plan for purchasing such a ridiculously expensive property compared to the national average, the national median, or even below that if you look in certain markets? Would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Last thing before we get started, this is probably your last chance to follow me and subscribe to me before I hit 4,000 subscribers. I've been growing a lot on my channel. I'm producing videos at a pretty consistent base. People are really starting to support. I've got a decent amount of views. I think it's cool to say you supported somebody before they blew up. All right, let's take a look at this property. We're going to jump right into it. So what I got right here, as you can see on my screen, is an $899,950 duplex in Everett, Washington. Everett is about 20 miles north of Seattle. It's a very popular place to live, and then people will commute to Seattle. I went to Everett High School, grew up in the area. My family still lives in that area, so I know the area pretty well. That's why I chose it, so I can give you good information on it. And we're going to call this $900,000 because it's only $50 shy. Let's go ahead and read a quick property description so we know what we're working with. Slide down here. Spacious duplex in Everett. Each unit has 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, and a 2-car garage. New exterior paint. Roof's only 5 years old. Kitchen has lots of cabinets, storage space, refrigerator, living room with a fireplace, dining room, access to the deck. And then the second floor is where the master bed, a full bath, 2 additional bedrooms, and an additional bath are. It's in a cul-de-sac, so it's private, close to schools and the freeways. Now, for those of you who don't know, I actually own a duplex that's almost identical to this. It's a 3-bed, 1.5 bath with a deck and a garage, so there are only 1-car garages per side, in a nice private cul-de-sac, except I own mine in a much nicer, more desirable city. And so what I get for rent at mine is more than what they will get for rent here. Now, again, because I know this market pretty well, I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know that a property like this, and again, we're assuming it's turnkey. If we take a look at the pictures here, you can see that it's definitely outdated. Laminate counters, wallpaper on the walls as a backsplash. Very interesting choice. A little outdated. You can see it was built in 1991, but it seems to be in good shape. Looks nice, spacious. I agree with them. White always looks good. Looks like a decent house. It's not going to get top dollar, but it's definitely going to get more than a below average property. I would say this is probably a Class B property. And then I know the area, it's a Class B neighborhood. Not bad at all. So what this would reasonably get in my market would be about $2,000 a month. And we're going to do most of our calculations based off of the realistic price of $2,000 a month per side. So a total of $4,000 in rents collected monthly. We'll also go ahead and show you how, even if we plan to get the most ridiculous rent possible, $2,500 a month or $5,000 combined, how the numbers still don't work. And remember, I always encourage people to estimate on the conservative side. Expect that your costs will be more and your income will be less, so that you don't end up getting yourself hurt when the things end up not going exactly how you planned. I'm going to jump over to my mortgage calculator where I've pre-filled out the numbers. You can see right here, $900,000 home price. That gives us a 20% down payment. We're going to just assume you found a 20% down payment instead of the typical 25% down payment. You're doing $180,000 down. We're going to go ahead and go with a 4.5% interest rate. Now, I understand that right here, right now, in the middle of 2020, September of 2020, interest rates are like 3.5%. But 4.5 is a little bit more typical. And again, plan for the worst, hope for the best. So we're going to go with 4.5%. You can see up here we have a monthly payment of $4,300 a month in a mortgage payment. Over here on the side, you can see the breakdown. Principal and interest, $3,600. Homeowners insurance, property taxes thrown in there, and we get up to $4,300. We're going to assume no HOA fees and no make-ready cost fees. You're buying it turnkey. It's ready to have a tenant walk into it today. Okay, so now we're going to take a look with these numbers right here. We're going to move over to our calculator. So first thing that we're going to want to do is figure out how the property cash flows, or well, in this case, doesn't cash flow. Okay, so now let me explain to you how I run my numbers on a rental property to make sure that I don't get burned and I get a good cash on cash return, and I know what a good, average, great, and fantastic deal in my marketplace are. So I'm going to come over to my calculator. Now again, we're assuming $2,000 aside, so that's $4,000 overall. The very first thing you do with your rents each month as they come in is you knock 30% off right off the top. Why? 10% goes to your property manager, 10% gets set aside for vacancies, 10% gets set aside for maintenance, and then maintenance including that is the CapEx or the capital expenditure, improvements to the properties, things like that. So you take your rents and you immediately knock 30% off. 10% to property manager, 20% goes into a bank account for all of the issues I just listed. So we're going to take 4,000, we're going to multiply that by 0.7 so that we get what 70% of 4,000 is. We have $2,800 left. Now from there, that's where we subtract out our $4,300 mortgage payment. So we subtract $4,300 and you can see we have a running balance of negative $1,500 a month. We've created for ourselves an alligator property, a negatively cash flowing property. We multiply that by 12 and you can see that on a yearly basis you are going to lose $18,000 a year for the cost, the privilege of owning this property. Not a great investment, in my opinion, looking at it from this perspective. Now let's try that with $5,000 instead. Clear it all out, we'll go with $5,000. Same thing, 30% off the top. So we multiply that times 0.7. So see what we have. Well, okay, so 70% of 5,000 is 3,500. We subtract our $4,300 again, and we end up with a negative monthly cash flow of $800. Multiply that by 12. At least we're only losing $9,600 a year in this case. So, and then of course we try to figure out what our return on our original down payment is. So again, our original down payment, $180,000. Somehow we have no closing costs, so we're just going with $180,000. We miraculously got no closing costs, which would never happen. So we divide that by $180,000. And we end up with a negative, multiply that by 100, we end up with a negative 5%. So we're losing 5% on our money each year. Not great. Not great. And that's remember, that's with the unrealistic rent. The other one would have been like losing 9% a year. So not great, not great. You can see automatically right out the gate why it really doesn't make sense. If you're putting 20% down at least, it doesn't really make sense. So, you may say to yourself, well, what if we just put more money down? One of the common strategies to make a property cash flow better is, okay, well, don't put 20% down, put 30%, put 40%, put 50%. Well, I'm going to show you what happens if we put 50% down. So let's go ahead and change our numbers here just slightly. We're going to change that to 50% down. Our down payment's now $450,000. Chump change, right? I'm sure you got that laying around in the bank somewhere. No big deal. Maybe you were 1031 exchanging from a different property in here, so you do have $450,000. Who knows? Maybe. Keep the interest rate the same. Our payment's down $29.39. You can see the breakdowns over here. It's $29.39. Back to the calculator. So we come over here. We still have the same amount of rent, $4,000 a month. Multiply that by 0.7. And then we subtract $29.39 minus $29.39, and we end up with a negative cash flow of $139 a month. Well, we multiply that by 12, and we're only out $1,668 a year to own it now. So, and best case scenario, again, absolute best case scenario, 5,000, knock the 30% off, and then subtract from that, what was it, 29.39? Yeah, subtract from that 29.39, and you're, hey, we're positive? Oh my God, we're actually positive. We actually, after all of our expenses, have a positive monthly cash flow, 561. We multiply that by 12. For our yearly, we're getting $6,732 a year. Now we divide that by our initial investment of 450 grand. So we divide that by 450, and we are getting, and multiply that by 100, and we are getting a 1.4% return on our money. Well, the good news is that in an average year where 2% is the inflation goal, you're only losing out to inflation by 0.6%. Unfortunately, in 2021, where we had like 5% inflation on the CPI over one quarter, you're kind of taking it in the teeth right here. So this again is just a terrible investment. And remember, you put 450 grand down just to get a 1.4% return. Makes no sense. Makes no sense to me. Okay, last thing I'm going to show you real quick. You do still have to account for your homeowner's insurance and your property taxes right here. So we've got the $66 for the homeowner's insurance, $593 for property tax. Call it $660 a month that you do still have to pay, because no matter what you do, you can't alleviate these costs. The other thing that you have to do, even if you pay all cash, is you still need to manage the property properly. So if we take $4,000, we still got to knock off 30% times 0.7. Subtract the $660 for your homeowner's insurance and your property taxes, so $660. And you can see that we've got $2,140. Well, we're positive cash flow here, $2,140 a month. We multiply that by 12 for our yearly profit of $25,680. But when we divide that by our original investment of $900,000, you will see that we end up with an actual return of 2.8%. You are only making 2.8% on your money, which at least in a normal year is maybe just barely edging out inflation by 0.8%, since 2% is what people aim for. But ultimately, I mean, you're essentially getting a 2.8% return on $900,000. How is this worth it to anyone? And again, even if we take 5,000, which isn't likely to get, but 5,000, we multiply that, we knock the 30% off, 3,500, we subtract the $660. Our monthly cash flow is $2,840 times 12, $34,000 a year divided by $900,000 a year. Multiply that by 100 in a best case scenario where we get top tier rent that we shouldn't be able to get, and we pay 100% cash up front, you're still only getting a 3.7% return on your money. So how can it possibly make sense to even pay all cash? So when I sit here and say I look at these numbers and I see people buy them, whether they're buying them with all cash, whether they're buying them with traditional financing, it doesn't make sense to me how you're doing it. The only exception is if your strategy is to pay all cash and you're holding it for hoping to hold it for 5 years, and maybe it's going to go from 800 or 900 grand up to 1.2 million. You just sell it again for a quick $300,000. Now that strategy's never been employed in mass in our country before and caused a giant Great Recession. That's definitely not a thing that happened. So I think the only people who are buying these are people who are extremely bad at investing, or they're doing straight appreciation. Because let me show you the other option. Okay guys, so here's what you could be investing in. Here's a real property that I bought last year in the Midwest in Indiana. You can see right here, it's a relatively nice looking single family home, 3-bedroom, 1 bath. Relatively new remodel on it, new roof, everything like that. Nice new floors. You can see that they're, nice and polished and sanded. Detached garage. Wow, that's a high-class living right there with a concrete with cracks in it. Nice. Anyways, this is my single-family home You can see down here it's estimated at $61,000. I bought it for $60,000. It's off market because your boy owns it. Let's go ahead and take a look at the mortgage calculator. Now I put the numbers in. $60,000. I put 20% down, which means I had $12,000 out of pocket. And I'll let you know what my closing costs were. I ended up paying about 16 grand total with $4,000 in closing costs. My interest rate was 4.2%, and I had a monthly payment of $343 a month. So this right here is estimating pretty close to what it really was, $343. Let's go take a look at the calculator right now. And also renting for $850 a month. Now, since I purchased it, the contract came up for renewal, and now they're paying $900 a month. But they were paying $850, so we'll run the numbers off of that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take $850 a month, multiply that by 0.7, because again, 30% off the top to the property manager, vacancies and maintenance, and I have a $595 to work with here. Now we subtract the mortgage payments, which includes property and insurance and taxes and the property taxes, the principal and interest. Subtract my $343, and I end up with a cash flowing property monthly of $252 a month. Now I know for this market, because I researched it extensively prior to investing in it, I know that a great real estate deal in this market is something that cash flows for $250 or more each month. $200 to $250 is a good deal. $200 to $150 is an average deal, and anything less than $150 is not cash flowing enough for it to be even worth me considering. It's just too close to zero. So $252 met my criteria for a great deal, as Michael Zuber likes to put it. Then we take that, we multiply that by 12. You can see yearly I make $3,024 in straight profit after all other expenses. And then we divide that by my initial cost to invest, which was the $12,000 down payment, as you can see right here, plus the closing costs, so 16 grand. Divided by $16,000 and multiply that by 100. And you can see that I end up with an 18.9% return on my money, an 18.9% yield, in other words. Now I ask you, why you would ever consider going negative when you can get these kinds of numbers elsewhere. Now, let's look at one other thing. How much money did it cost me to acquire this? $12,000. We'll throw the closing costs in there, call it 16 grand. Now, remember how much I put down in my original example for the big house out here in the Everett area, the Everett, Seattle area? It was $180,000, okay? $180,000. For those of you who don't know, divide that by 5, that buys you 36,000 Little Caesars hot and ready pizzas. Okay, that's nothing to sneeze at right there. So $180,000, that's some good cash. Now we divide that by my $16,000, which was the cost of me buying one single property, and you can see that I could buy 11.25 properties out where I'm at. So just call it 11 properties, 11 houses, getting me that 18% return on my money. That's astounding. So when I try to encourage people to consider investing elsewhere other than a very ridiculously overpriced coastal city, this is the reason why your money goes so much further. You can actually get a return. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand how people can give up, if they put 50% down, again, that's $450,000. We divide that by 5. It's 90,000 hot and ready Little Caesars pizzas. I can't waste that type of menu. Or I can't waste that type of money. I mean, think about what I could order off the menu at Wendy's. I could eat for at least a week and a half. If I was feeding my son, it might only be like 3 days because he eats a lot. Guys, hopefully this video is beneficial in showing you why you should consider alternative markets to where you live. I'm not against investing where you live, but I really think that the advice that was given years ago, similar to the 1% rule, you should only invest in your backyard, invest 30 minutes from where you live. You want to know your market. You do want to know your market. But because of the advent of the internet and Zoom calls and just the ability to network and meet people online and learn things, you don't necessarily have to drive out and visit a property. It's been over a year and a half of me investing in the Midwest. I've never seen a single one of my properties. Not a single one. I've never met my real estate agent, never met any of the other guys that invest out there that are in my mentor group. I've never met my property manager, none of it. And I've managed to find pretty darn good success doing it the way that I'm doing right now. So do not be afraid of looking to other markets where your money can actually do good work for you. I'm in the Midwest. Maybe you would invest in the South or the Southwest or something. Heck, you could even be in your own state. Even if I move from Seattle and look at Spokane, which is on the other side of the state near Idaho, all the numbers get cut in half. an $800,000 house, here's a $400,000 house there. I mean, just cut it right in half. So, you know, maybe it makes sense to do something like that. And that's only a 5-hour drive. Still, I don't want to make it, but whatever. Guys, if you like my content, consider subscribing to my channel and help support me. I really do appreciate it. Likes obviously help the algorithm and help me make more of this because it does take a significant amount of time, and I do it all for free for you. If you have questions for me, DM me on Instagram. Link to that's in the description below. Leave me a comment down below, and until next time, we'll catch you later.